What's up guys, BltzZ here today bringing you another video. In today's video, we are finally talking about the combat behind Yuffie's DLC Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission. It's taken me some time to finish this one up because every day there's like something new I'm discovering. Yuffie's combat is absolutely insane and by far the best we have seen in this series at this point. Yes, I'm talking about better than Barret, Aerith, Cloud, and even Tifa. As much as it feels weird to say that. Yes, Yuffie has by far the best combat of the entire cast we've seen so far with Remake. I never would have imagined that with a DLC, they would have or even wanted to fix my biggest issue with Remake. And that's aerial combat. Guys, aerial combat is finally fixed. Yuffie does not need to touch the ground at all during any fight. Her kit is specifically designed to tap into a new form of combat we have yet to see or enjoy. The future of Remake is in great hands, and just by seeing what she can do now alone makes me hella excited to see what Cloud and the others' combat is going to turn into when we get to Remake Part 2. Now with all that being said, let's get into this video and learn how to play Yuffie. Right away, Intermission is 60 frames per second, which levels up the combat even more. The buttons are more snappier and reactive, and your inputs have less delay. You could actually chalk that up specifically to the frames. Really now, since we have 2 times the amount that we previously did when we were locked at 30 frames with Remake Part 1. Starting off with Yuffie's basic attacks, they have so many different functions, guys. The square button while holding the shuriken has a 4-button combo that can juggle smaller enemies. And we see Yuffie fly up in the air with them and then slam them back down. Depending on whether they're pressured or not, they will go up in the air with her. On top of that, if you hold down the square button, she hits the enemy and jumps back a distance, creating space to set up a follow-up attack. This is where you would normally press triangle to throw her shuriken, and then you can press triangle again to teleport Yuffie towards the enemy that the shuriken is currently on. This can help her close the gap insanely quickly and also deal a large amount of damage. You can spam this over and over again to keep her in the air as well. I was not joking about this earlier, guys. When her shuriken is thrown out, it hovers over the enemy, dealing damage over time continuously. This lasts about 10 seconds with her base weapon. With the boomerang weapon, this can last a little bit longer, but to be honest, it can be extended on any weapon just fine, especially if you keep attacking while the shuriken is out. During this moment, Yuffie has access to a second form of basic attacks with the square button. These attacks are ranged and are magic based to deal magic damage. The fact that this is even a thing already makes Yuffie hella versatile, way more than the other characters. And this is only the beginning of her kit. We haven't even talked about her abilities yet. In her magic stance form, she can hold down square to do a ground slam, which deals big damage and can juggle enemies towards her. However, when you execute this, it does return the shuriken back to her hand, so in a way, you can kind of loop these 2 attacks over and over again with each other in rapid succession. Another great loop with Yuffie's throw is to throw the shuriken at an enemy and tap triangle again to teleport Yuffie to them, mash square 3 times, and press triangle 2 times again, repeat. This is a simple combo you need to learn with Yuffie in order to take advantage of her juggle potential and her amazing aerial combat. And now, before we get into her abilities, there is an entirely new mechanic that was added into Remake for Yuffie with her block parry. Yuffie's weapons have a special skill now that you can access called Precision Defense. On a successful perfect block, she will negate all incoming damage and receive a unique buff added to her. Every weapon has a different buff, so from the first weapon, the 4-point shuriken, you get an ATB boost when you do a perfect block, which fills up her ATB bar on a precision defensive block. The second one is from the boomerang weapon, which gives her a barrier, which reduces incoming damage. And the final one is a regen. These all last about 30 seconds each and encourage the player to go for perfect blocks and reap the rewards. This is something that Remake Part 1 lacked a lot of. I mean, Cloud had 2 parries with Punisher mode and counter stance, but he still would take damage regardless if it was perfectly executed or not. So seeing that this was added to Yuffie adds a whole nother element to her kit that once again makes her gameplay even better than Remake Part 1, something that I didn't think was possible. This is something that all the characters need, and I cannot wait to see how they implement this for Remake Part 2, because oftentimes defense felt like it was lacking something like an incentive. Adding this to the members will only improve on the gameplay mechanics further in the future. We're going to return back to her basic attack kit once we talk about a few of her abilities. The most important ability requires that you hit that subscribe button because only 43.4% of people that watch and love these videos are currently subscribed. Guys, we are here. We are finally talking about Yuffie, her combat, and the fact that Intermission is out for us to play. Hit that subscribe button today so you don't miss out on more guides and videos coming your way ASAP. Also, we are doing a members-only PlayStation 5 giveaway right now. Join and become a member to get access to the giveaway, which gives you the highest chances of winning than we ever had before. Higher tiers gives you more chances to win, so make sure that you guys choose wisely. Remember, this is members only. You don't want to miss out on this, guys. Now let's get back into this video. Good luck on the PS5. By default, Yuffie's first ability is Windstorm. I personally love this attack because I felt like wind magic was very underused in Remake Part 1. Its utility was a bit off and only a select few enemies and bosses were weak against it. Windstorm is actually much more complex than you guys would think. It is a gust of wind that surrounds Yuffie in an AoE form. It pressures and draws enemies towards her and can help her with seriously staggering people. However, if you are using it this way, you are using it wrong. The best way to use Windstorm is to throw a shuriken at the enemy, and while the shuriken is hovering over them, you can use Windstorm and it deals massive damage to that target. Any enemies nearby it as well. It also sends them flying towards Yuffie. My entire normal playthrough, I used this move very incorrectly. Windstorm is super strong when you combo with the shuriken in this way, and can make bosses like Ramuh super easy by just nuking him over and over again with it. Many times, even if an enemy is not weak to wind magic, I find myself using this combo because simply it's just way too powerful to ignore. The fact that it maintains the AoE effect from so far away and pulls enemies towards Yuffie, that blows my mind. Stop using it without the shuriken and destroy those enemies ASAP by throwing a shuriken at them and then using Windstorm. This move can also be enhanced with Sonon, which we will talk about later on with Synergy. The second ability, which is default to Yuffie, is called Art of War. It can also be synergized with Sonon. Art of War is a series of melee attacks which get stronger with each hit. This can put enemies into a pressured state pretty quickly and also deals a decent amount of staggered damage. I still prefer Windstorm over this because of the utility Windstorm offers, but Art of War is a great one too. But with Sonon in the party, Art of War becomes borderline OP, and we're going to talk about that later. The first weapon ability you get access to is the Elemental Ninjutsu, one of the best abilities they could have ever created. Listen to me, guys. This one ability is actually 4 in 1. You can imbue Yuffie's attacks to deal fire, ice, lightning, or wind damage. However, the element does not attach itself to Yuffie's weapon attacks. It's based on Yuffie's magic attack stance we spoke about earlier when the shuriken leaves her hand. Now, her basic attacks in the magic stance will deal elemental damage to enemies, which is some seriously clever stuff I did not expect Square to come up with for a DLC. This removes the need to have to use elemental materia and pair it with a magic materia, which was a bread and butter build everybody used in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1. This alone frees up 2 materia slots and allows us to make our builds a little bit more flexible. This is the type of improvement I applaud the devs for, and I am here for and want to see for the future. But seriously, Yuffie is literally a one-girl army and a straight-up Swiss Army knife. She can do it all and does not even need Sonon most of the time. Using this as a battle shortcut is sort of tricky too because it is 4 abilities. The best way to use this is through the command menu because you have to manually select it and choose whichever element you want. Or if you want, you can make Lightning Ninjutsu a shortcut since it has such a high usage rate against robotic enemies, which there are tons of in Yuffie's DLC. Seriously, imbuing your attacks with different elements on the fly is such a great thing. Not to mention, it lasts well over 5 minutes. There will be a whole boss fight where you will never need to reactivate the ninjutsu unless you want to switch elements. There's also another ability which does effects, which we will get into very soon. Now the next weapon ability is from the boomerang weapon. It is called Brumal Form. Brumal Form is, without a doubt, hands down my favorite ability in all of Final Fantasy VII Remake, basically tied with Algidora. Brumal Form is a defensive ability that is super vital to Yuffie's gameplay, so you will need it as a battle shortcut. Personally, I have it set to my circle button battle shortcut because in my mind, the circle button is already wired to dodge. Why not have it set as a shortcut as well? You can also use it while in the air, so there's no excuses as to not using it. And while Yuffie is zipping around doing crazy air combos, you can use this to dodge enemy attacks easily and stay in the action. Brumal Form is a substitution jutsu from Naruto. Straight up, it really is. It even has Konoha leaves that make an appearance when she uses it. Brumal Form only costs 1/8 of an ATB bar, so you can spam it happily to avoid attacks. Not to mention, if you successfully dodge an enemy attack with it, you gain almost half of an ATB bar back, making it a must-use in combat to keep using to fill up on ATB. When you successfully dodge an enemy attack, you will see the poof text appear where Yuffie was and a Moogle. Yuffie also says poof goes the ninja. This move is very broken, and you can even dodge rapid fire shots from enemies with guns. As long as you have one ATB bar and time this thing properly, you will fill up Yuffie's ATBs pretty quickly and dance around the field making enemies look silly. Don't sleep on Brumal Form, guys. Put it in your kit and always use it at any chance you get. Now the next weapon ability is called Banishment Level 1. This is an AoE attack which deals heavy damage. You can even level it up further to level 3 by spending ATB on commands such as abilities or magic. Unfortunately, Brumal Form does not increase the abilities levels. I know, that would have been really amazing, Square. Come on, think about it. But any ability or command that uses one full ATB bar works towards leveling up Banishment. You need to use an ability or a command 3 times to get it to level up. So a total of 6 commands are needed to get to level 3. The neat thing about this is that if Yuffie uses an elemental ninjutsu, it changes Banishment to match that element. So if she was to use Wind Ninjutsu, for example, Banishment turns into Aeolian Banishment, which will obviously be a wind-based giant AoE magic attack. Most likely in boss fights, you will easily get this to level 3, but in regular fights, you won't always get up to 6 commands used normally, especially with how OP Yuffie can be. But if you want to, you can just keep recasting elemental ninjutsus over and over again to raise it up. A great materia to have on Yuffie would also be ATB boost, so you can refill your bars and get banishments leveled up. But this works for all elements, and honestly, as much as Yuffie may love materia, I don't ever see the point in equipping magic materia to her. Her entire kit thrives off of every color materia except green, well, at least the elements. So there's no reason you should be running a magic materia build with Yuffie, guys. She's literally built different from everybody else. The next weapon ability is Mug. This is an attack version of Steel that deals damage to an enemy while also stealing items from them. It has to be unlocked from the weapon core, but it could also be used in the air. There's nothing really crazy special about it, to be honest, just a cool addition to the gameplay and callback to Final Fantasy VII Original. The final weapon ability is from the DLC weapon, the Cackstar. It is called the Cactuar Caper. This move is great against mobs and smaller enemies. It has the Cackstar run around exactly like the Cactuar normally does, but it really doesn't have much of good utility in other scenarios. Just an extra attack for Yuffie to use if you want to use it. Yuffie's limit break is Bloodbath, which is a series of hits that deal big damage. The pressure and stagger increase is not as great as Cloud and Tifa's limit breaks, and she only has one limit break. Same goes for Sonon. Speaking of Sonon, let's actually talk about his kit since he technically is an extension of Yuffie's gameplay. Sonon is a separate character we cannot control directly, but we can command him to use certain abilities, and he also tag team combos with Yuffie in amazing fashion. Sonon's first ability is Twirling Lunge. This is a default ability that increases enemy stagger bar a lot once they are pressured. Think of Cloud, Barret, and Tifa's focus attacks for raising stagger bar. For Sonon to learn his weapon abilities, he needs to land them on an enemy and deal the killing blow with it. The easiest way for him to learn his abilities are in Chapter 2's VR training room, once you unlock it from beating the game on normal. The second mission starts off with enemy flyer bots, which he can one-shot and take them out instantly with any ability. Now this can be done on any enemy, but most likely at the time of you guys watching this, most of you guys will have beaten this game on normal mode and have the VR mode already unlocked. So this is just a faster way to unlock all of his abilities. The first weapon ability is called Swirling Storm. This deals a big amount of damage and is basically Yuffie's Art of War, but for Sonon. The second weapon ability is called Fighting Spirit. This move has Sonon focus his attacks down on one single enemy. Great to use if you are battling a boss and you need the extra damage. This makes Sonon's first priority dealing as much damage to whatever target you choose as fast as possible. And his third and final ability is called Incite. This move is basically a taunt which makes enemies focus Sonon instead of Yuffie. This is essentially provoke materia, and if Yuffie deals massive amounts of damage to that enemy, this can break its hold on the target. Basically, you want to use this if you need Yuffie to heal or reset a fight essentially. This will not work on bosses though, just like provoke materia. And finally, Sonon's limit break Dance of the Dragon. This move is basically a big damage dealer, and it has the same effects as Yuffie's and does not cause a lot of pressure or stagger. Now, these moves are fine and all, but the real gold behind Sonon is synergy. Whenever a battle starts, you have to actually manually activate synergy with the L2 button. Once Yuffie and Sonon get 1 bar of ATB, then you can go to the command list, and Yuffie has 2 new abilities called Synergize Art of War and Synergize Windstorm. These are upgraded and heavy damaging moves of Yuffie's base kit abilities. Synergize Art of War can take down most big enemies' health bar to half, especially if they are staggered. It's easily one of the stronger moves that these two have access to. And Synergize Windstorm can pull enemies closer towards you and hold them still for about 5 seconds while it spins around them and damages them. And not only that, but the Synergize Windstorm increases stagger percent as well against enemies and bosses. So against a boss, it may be more beneficial to use Synergize Windstorm first to get their stagger percentage up to 240% before going into an Art of War, which will most likely one-shot them after that. And besides the abilities, while Yuffie and Sonon are synergized with the L2 button, Sonon will mimic any of the attacks that Yuffie uses. If Yuffie wants to use magic attack stance, then Sonon will do it as well. You can pair him with elemental materia and a magic materia if you want a specific element for him to deal damage with. And also, while you're holding her weapon, they will go into a full combo together and then begin continuously air bomb raiding enemies in a hilarious fashion. No, seriously, this looks pretty hilarious, I can't lie. The good thing about this is that while Yuffie and Sonon are synergized, they deal more pressure to enemies and can quickly fill up their stagger meter. The only downside to synergy is that Sonon builds ATB super slow whenever he's synergized, so if it's not needed, make sure you press L2 again to turn it off and then turn it back on whenever you need to. Also, while synergy is active, it makes Yuffie and Sonon not gain ATB when doing the dive bomb combo. You'll actually see they lose some ATB as well. So be aware of that and pay attention to when you need to turn it on and off. Once Sonon gets a bar of ATB while synergized, then you can use that Synergize Art of War to your heart's content and deal crazy damage. Yuffie and Sonon can both synergize their limit breaks as well. While L2 is pressed and both party members have their limit breaks, they will do a team up limit break, piling on crazy damage, pressure, and stagger as well. Guys, it does crazy damage. And that wraps it up for this video, guys. That's essentially the beginner guide for Yuffie and Sonon. I'm so sorry it took me so long to get this out to you all, but there's just so much to cover. I had to keep delaying it as I found out more and more stuff about the combat and gameplay every day. There are really a ton of crazy cool mechanics introduced in this DLC that we are barely scratching the surface. Yuffie and Sonon are so much fun to use, and I cannot wait to show you guys the rest of the crazy shit that they can do. So stay tuned for the advanced guide coming very soon. I didn't want to make a 30-minute video to start off the guides, so I decided to follow the same route I did with the previous characters and just do a beginner guide first. So I hope you all understand and found this one very helpful. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new. More Final Fantasy VII Remake videos are coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.